All right, well, thank you, everybody. And my name is Silvia Alvarez, as Helen was saying, and we have been collaborating with the Forest Health Program of the U.S. Forest Service for 7 years. And today we are going to be telling you a little bit about some of the work we have been doing together. First, I am going to give a little bit of a global perspective and why we are interested in tree conservation. Then Amy Byrne is going to tell us about some of the cross-sector work that we have been doing to identify and conserve at-risk trees here in the United States. And Sean Hoban is going to tell us about the importance of genetic diversity and how we can conserve it. And then Abby Meyer from Botanic Garden Conservation International is gonna talk about some tools that the Botanic Garden community has developed to promote and conduct action for conserving trees. Then we are going to share some resources with you, and there will be plenty of time for a Q&A that Helen will facilitate. So Sean, Amy, and I work at a botanic garden focused on trees, which is called the Morton Arboretum. The Morton Arboretum is located on the west suburbs of Chicago, and it was founded in 1922. We have a pretty big 700 hectare property with 900 acres of natural areas. We have more than 100 staff, including a science and conservation department for which we work. So there we have a Center for Tree Science, which is where Sean is located. And then we have a Chicago Region Trees Initiative program, which actually I think they are giving a parallel talk in these webinar series. So I encourage you to go and check it out later because it will be recorded. And then I direct the Global Tree Conservation Program, which focuses on tree conservation at a global scale, but also within the United States, just not in the Chicago region. And why tree conservation? In the world, there are approximately 60,000 tree species. And in 2021, the State of the World's Trees report revealed that from those, almost 1/3 are under some category of threat. That is 17,500 threatened tree species in the world, which, to put it in perspective, is the equivalent of all the amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammal species 2 times that are threatened. So that is a lot of tree species. The majority of those occur in the tropical regions of the world, but there are also threatened trees here in the United States that I will talk about in a second. At the global level, the main threats to trees are land use for agriculture and urbanization, exploitation of timber, pests and diseases, and climate change. Those threats, of course, are not the same in all the places, right? Like there are some places where some threats are more important than others. For example, here in the canopy in the Chicago region, we have threats that are particular to urban areas. For example, we have a lower average of canopy relative to other cities at only 23%, and 45% of those natural areas have invasive species, such as buckthorn and honeysuckle. And a lot of them are very small trees of less than 6 inches in diameter. And we had a devastation of a lot of ash trees, as you may all be familiar, due to the emerald ash borer. And a lot of those are still standing, which can present a hazard. There are threats such as low species diversity for urban canopy, lack of oak regeneration of our natural oak systems here in the Chicago region, and then poor preservation and protection policies, as well as few resources that are allocated for canopy conservation in the city and around the Chicago region. And so this is the work of our parallel program, the Chicago Region Trees Initiative. So if you want to learn more, you can check out our website and also, as I mentioned, their webinar. But today we are going to go beyond the Chicago region a little bit for our talk. Some of the work that we have done in collaboration with the U.S. Forest Service actually was creating the first checklist of U.S. trees that revealed that 11 to 15% of the trees of the United States are under some category of threat. And here's the paper, and we can share it if you would like later. And here it's a pie chart of the different categories of threat according to the IUCN, which is the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Some of the highlights of this work are that the majority of the threatened species of the United States occur in California, Texas, and the Southeast United States. As you can see in this map, here on the right side, you can see like the number of native threatened species or at risk, and the hotter the color, the more purple means more species. And just to highlight that, on the left table, you can see some of the families with the majority of the threatened or at-risk species, and the percentage of the species in that family that are under threat. So for example, Rosaceae has 34 species, which account for 25% of the species for that family. And Fagaceae, which are the oaks or quercus, is on the second place. And I am highlighting this because a lot of the work we do is with oaks, and we will be talking more about that in a second. And on the right is the same data, but by genus. So Crataegus has a lot of species at risk, but also because it has a lot of species, and there are some taxonomic issues there too. And then Quercus comes in second again. But of course, there are some genera, for example, here the Perseas, right? The bay, that 100% of the 3 species are under some category of threat. And when we consider these threatened species, maybe something that doesn't come to mind right away is that arboreta are a great resource to collaborate with if you are interested in doing conservation. Arboreta usually have departments where they do science that focuses on tree. We also know how to grow trees because we have our own horticulture and plant breeding programs. We also have living collections where that could serve as resources for research and for testing methodologies. We have in situ conservation programs in the areas where the gardens or arboreta are located, but also beyond. And I think one of the most important is that a lot of the gardens have public outreach and education programs, which are going to increase our impact and the ability to translate the science or the research that we do into action with our communities and our visitors. So that is exactly why we think that our collaboration with the U.S. Forest Service Forest Health Protection Program has been so successful, because we have been able to catalyze those different stakeholders towards protecting mainly genetic diversity of the trees of the United States. Some of the main goals of this collaboration are to catalyze partners across sectors to conserve genetic diversity, engage and train the next generation of tree conservationists and scientists. And we focus a lot on including traditionally underrepresented minority groups, and then developing and improving methodologies and tools that are going to be useful for improving how we conserve trees and what we can do to try to prevent extinction of trees at risk. And a lot of the work that we have done here at the Arboretum has focused on oaks, or the genus Quercus, because it is really important here in the Midwest. It's also the most important genus by basal area in the United States. And originally we focused a lot on prioritizing which of those oaks were the ones that were more at risk, and that is summarized in the red list of the US oaks, and then focusing a little bit more on ex situ collections, or collections in botanic gardens, which is summarized in the conservation gap analysis of the US oaks that we can also share with you. And with that, after we had these, information on which are the species that we needed to focus on, then we can move more into planning and action of what do we need to do with those species. And I think Amy is gonna tell you some case studies regarding to that work.